The biggest deal is in winter, fire becomes a lot less fun and a lot more necessary. In wintertime, the biggest deal is in the spring, summer, and fall, you can take your time. You can experiment. You can try to have fun making fire and doing different things that you've never done before. But in winter, your hands get so cold so quick, it could get to a point where you can't start a fire. And also, when you're stinking cold, you just want that heat. So I just wanted something that you could light and throw under a pile of pretty much anything but big logs, and it would just take off. And so I'm going to show you how I did that, and then we'll be back here and we'll actually test the thing. So you'll need some sort of tubing for the outside. That's the main case. Then you'll have to have some sort of paper that is very flammable, cotton balls, flat paper that you can roll up, and then scissors to cut everything up that you need to cut up. And then some sort of wax. Don't use any scented wax. I know from experience that any scented wax animals will get into even while you're camping, and it's not fun because they just tear everything up and make a mess of it, and then you lose all your fire starters, which can be important. So I'm going with this bigger tube. It's quite a bit wider than a normal toilet paper roll, and it's a little bit more sturdy, so I think it'll burn better. I understand that this is going to be a large thing, but it's not meant to be compact or easy to carry necessarily. It's meant to be like a big fire starter that just works every time. So I'm going to cut off all the way out here, because again, we want this thing to be really big. Then you're going to take your paper and you're going to cut it a little bit shorter than the full length of your tube, and I'll explain why in a sec. So now we're going to roll it up, and it'll go in there. So what's going to happen is this paper tube is going to act as our airflow pipe, and so what we're going to do is pack all this other space with other paper and flammable materials, and then the cotton ball will go in here. And once the cotton ball ignites from our ferro rod strike, that will be an air opening so that everything inside can burn really well, rather than just being a big chunk of fuel that will burn only on the outside. Then we're going to take any other paper that we need. Again, this is flammable paper, but doesn't have to be perfect because we have our inside tube here. So we're just going to want this to be roughly the same size as our tube here. Since we have this tube in the center, we really want all this paper to be really filling in other than that center tube that's going to be empty, because we need a lot of fuel in there to burn really long. Okay, so now that we have this, what we're going to do is take it from the end and just roll it loosely enough so it's not too tight, but that once we're done rolling it, it'll fit in that tube. So now we have the tube, and we're just going to trim off the edges so that it's nice and even on the end. Now you're going to stick your finger in here and just try to widen the gap so we can fit our white paper in there. So now we're going to roll this up really tightly, and when we stick it in there, it's going to actually expand. It'll try to unroll some, and that'll give us a nice flat tube on the inside. There we have our nice tube through the center. So now we have our melted wax that we melted in a boiling pot of water on the stove. I just have an old pot that I use. And what we're going to do is we're going to pour it in one end around the circle, not through it, because we don't want the wasted wax to just fall through onto the cardboard. So we're going to do one end here. I'm going to let that drip some. Flip it and do the other end as well. And it's okay if it gets on the outside, because that outside will burn too. And honestly, what I'm going to do here, since we have all this extra wax that's dripping right here, I'm actually just going to take it, let it drip now that I have both sides filled, and just give it a nice roll, because all that extra wax will help everything burn well. And look at that. Obviously be careful because the wax can be hot. It's not burning my fingers, but depending on how hot you get it, it could be worse. We're just going to let this dry for a few minutes so that it can really harden up. Okay, so this is what we have so far, and it does look very ugly, but I think it's going to work. So you really want to make sure that it's hardened all the way through, and I can press on it and it feels really firm. And that's important because next we're going to take this, and through one side, we're going to drill a few holes so that this main tube here, where our ventilation is, pulls in air as the fire burns. The heat is going to pull air through this tube and up through those holes that we drill here. So that way we're going to have a nice, clean, efficient burn, and it'll burn a little quicker, but more efficiently and hotter and with a bigger flame. So we have 6 holes. I think that'll do what I want it to do, and if not, then that's okay. While I was waiting for this one to cool, I did make 2 more, so that's what those are from. And then our final step isn't necessarily necessary, so I'm going to take this cotton ball and just unroll it, and I'm just going to feed it into this tube here, but this is really going to be necessary if you're using a ferro rod to light it. So I'm just going to take it and shove it in there, make sure it's all the way to the other end as well, and then you can just tuck that bit in a little bit there, and then you will be able to set this up and just strike it. If you wanted to, you could even pull this out a little bit. Okay, also, so it's been in the works for a while. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but me and my son finally set up the cabinet that we inherited from my great-grandmother. We've got all of my coolest sets and then some that he chose out as well. Wouldn't be my picks, but he chose them, so I love it either way. So there's that. I'm a bit of a nerd, but I can't help it. So one of the biggest things you want to do when starting a fire is making sure that you have a nice clear area, because when you start a fire, the cold and the wetness, the moisture that melts from your fire will actually seep up through your fire, and it can put it out if you don't do it right. So you don't want to build it on top of snow because that'll put itself out. So I'm just clearing a nice area, and then I'm also not stepping in the snow as much. Little area for my bag as well. Now we need to find some sticks, and there's this big dead tree that fell a while ago, so all these small branches should be dead and dry, especially because they're up off the ground and not in the snow. Actually still looking a little bit too alive for me. You can see this bark is still holding together pretty well, and it's got some green in there a little bit, I think. I don't know if you can see that or not. So I think I better find something else. Here's this too. This is sort of this is sort of what I'm talking about. I want to be able to just get a thing like this with this thicker stuff and just be able to throw that over the fire starter. Not have hardly any short stuff, you know, the really skinny stuff that you normally need, and just be done with it. I mean, you can have skinny stuff on there, and I probably still will, but I just want to be able to throw stuff on and have a fire. So this is the problem in winter. It's so cold. I didn't bring any gloves because I kind of wanted to do some experiments since I was out here anyways, but I can't feel my pinky anymore. I can still move it pretty well, but I can't feel that already because it's so cold outside. It's like 18 degrees or something like that. So that's just how quickly you can lose your feeling and your, you know, mobility with your thumbs and fingers and stuff. It just happens so quick in the cold, and that can kill you because you can't start a fire or, you know, even undo a zipper or something. It's very serious. Okay, so normally you wouldn't really want to set your stuff in the snow. I'm being less careful because, again, I want to know that these fire starters will work even in not great conditions. This one's got snow all over it too. Do my best to whack it off. Oh. So I'm not really just trying, like, I'm just piling stuff on. I'm really hoping it works. If not, we'll get the fire going, but I think it'll work well. If anything, any part of you that touches any cold, the ground, the snow, the ice, even the air will just suck that heat out of you. So I don't want to put my knees on the ground. I don't want to get my boots too much on my butt here as I'm kind of sitting on my legs, because all that will just make me colder really quick. So if you're in an actual situation, you wouldn't want to do that. You definitely want to pack these in something because they will flake off. They're not meant to look nice. They're just meant to function really well. So I made three different ones. This is the one I'm going to test first. It's just how I built it, how I showed you. So I'm going to use a ferro rod to strike that cotton ball in there, and I'm just going to make sure it lights on both ends, and then I'm just going to stick it in and see what happens. So my thought with this was I could just pull this out a little bit and kind of set it on top. It'll sort of act as a candle, and then it'll start burning that end. Then I can just flip it over, let it burn all the way through, and then I'll just stick it in there. There it goes. On fire now. It is already burning. Not the biggest flame, but it is on fire for sure. Not all the way through though. But maybe if I pull this through. Okay, so there's our first problem. So this was actually keeping it from burning all the way through, but I'm wondering if we just get a little bit in there, kind of shoved in. There we go. Lit. What I'm really looking for is that flame to come through from one side to the other and then eventually burn out these holes, or at least have airflow through these holes. Definitely burning, just not all the way through. I think that cotton ball is actually not letting any air through at all, so maybe I should just poke it out. Definitely burning well, just not all the way through like I wanted. Take that cotton ball out. Oh yeah. Okay, so the cotton ball is actually a hindrance, so I just need to find a better way to light that on the inside, but the thing's burning really well already, so I'm just gonna shove it in here. You can see I've already got big flame coming through here. You can already hear all the sizzling of that snow melting. So already a big flame there. Come around here. We got smoke coming through. but there's no there's no fire coming through, so it's not what we wanted. But I did make another one with a lot bigger hole. I made this other one with a lot bigger hole here, so I think that'll probably do better because it'll have a lot more room for air to flow. But then the problem is the other one I made has a lot smaller hole. But there's definitely stuff other than the fire starter burning in there. You can see the flames are really starting to lick those bigger pieces. So I guess for now we're just going to sit back and see what it does. I think it's lighting pretty well. Just not burning like I wanted it to, but if it works, it works. So it's been a couple minutes and it's really starting to lick everything on there, and we're really starting to see some real flame. And I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's still quite a bit of that thing left, and this side isn't even caught on fire right now. So I don't think it's going to have any problem whatsoever lighting that fire. So we're going to sit around, wait till it does, and then we've got a couple other things to see. Then we'll get out of here. Okay, so it's been a little bit longer, and there's just clear fire in there. At this point, I would have no issue getting a real fire started. I mean, this is a real fire. Look at it. So the other thing I wanted to do is just see how long it would burn, which I know these tests are kind of dumb. As long as they don't burn out in a few, quick seconds, they burn up in the fire if your fire actually gets going. So as long as it lasts at least a few minutes, it's probably pretty good. But I just want to see how long it'll last. We're going to light the other side. And the timer is started. It's had a good flame and we're approaching 2 minutes right here. Coming up on 5 minutes, and the flame is still pretty stinging good. So you can actually see right now this air is blowing this way, and you can see it's kind of spitting the fire out this way because you're getting that good airflow through there. I don't know how much that hole actually helps. I think it's with it being that small, it's not burning much, but when you have that airflow going straight through there, you could see that flame just shooting out here, burning a lot better. Coming up on 8 minutes, and it's still a pretty stinging good flame. So while the fire starter test is still running to see how long it burns, I just wanted to go over a couple things. Pros, I think it burns really well and burns long enough. Obviously got those logs started, and most of it was stuff about this big around, which isn't what you're supposed to start with, and it still started a fire pretty well, and if I would have maintained it, it would have burnt really well. Another thing that I think worked well, as long as the hole stayed bigger, is the airflow in it. I think that helped burn all the way through really well, rather than just having a big lump that wouldn't burn as well. The holes in the top did absolutely nothing. You could definitely switch out the insides to be, other than just like paper, you could do a sawdust mixture if you wanted to, or something. If you could cap the ends, you could do dryer lint, something like that. And then also the outside is really flaky. It didn't really soak into the cardboard because I rolled it in it. I think if I would have dipped it, it would have soaked in better, but it's all just flaking off really badly, and that could be because of the extreme cold as well. But so I think overall it's a decent fire starter. There's probably better products out there that you could buy, but it's something really easy to make myself, and it did work for what I wanted it to. So I think I'll keep working on some variants and figure out what actually works, and maybe get back with another video. But I think overall it worked really well. So that's the flame we still have, about that big, and we are at 10 minutes and 35 seconds, and it's still burning pretty strong. Approaching its last little bit of burn here, but we hit 15 minutes and it's still going. But I think I'm going to call that a 15-minute burn time pretty easily, and that was probably the worst one I made. So I'd imagine they'd all burn at least 15 minutes or around there, so pretty good. Trying to film and these dogs are barking, and it's because there's all these deer crossing right here. Well, thanks for sticking around for the experiment, guys. If you liked that, leave a like and a comment of what you'd like to see next, and make sure to check out the rest of my channel. I've got a lot of good content on there and a lot more coming, especially with the weather change. So stick around, guys. It's going to be awesome. Thanks for watching the Micah Davey channel. See you in the next one.